Okay, today we are moving on with our data and statistics. Okay, still keeping in mind how to put this stuff in your calculator because I'm about to show y'all a really shortcut. Okay, if you flip over, I believe it is page 5. So flip in your packet to page 5 and it looks something like this. Okay, it gives you two pieces of data, Bryce and Brianna. Okay, it gives you these two people and then it wants you to find something called the standard deviation. Okay, what standard deviation is basically a measure of consistency. Okay, so if we think about it, let's think about a math class. Okay, in a math class, you have the kid that consistently makes the A's and B's on the test. Okay, that kid would have a standard deviation that is a very low number. Okay, you also have the kid that will make, a C or D on every single test, and then every once in a while bust out a 100. Okay, the standard deviation for that kid is going to be a lot higher. Okay, so again, standard deviation, I'm going to put STDDEV, that's how I'm going to abbreviate it, it makes life a lot easier. Okay, the standard deviation measures consistency. I know I can't spell, so I don't even know if that's right, to be honest with you. Okay, measures consistency. Whatever. Okay, again, you want that number to be very low. Okay, if you have a set of data and you put all the data in your calculator, let's say for Bryce and Brianna, for example, and you figure out that they have the same exact average, they have the same exact mean, but you have to pick the better kid in this example to get a math award. Okay, you have to pick the kid that is better, but they have the exact same average. So how would you do that? That is why we start talking about standard deviation. Okay, you want to find another measure to compare two people or two things, especially if they have the same average. Okay, so jump down and look at this big old chart. Okay, this chart right here is just how you would calculate the standard deviation for just Bryce. Okay, these are just Bryce's numbers. This isn't even anything to do with Brianna. So you would have to go back and redo all of these steps for Brianna as well that you would have to do for Bryce. Okay, if you look, there is a bunch of columns. There's a bunch of crazy looking stuff going on up here. The good thing about this is because of this handy dandy little calculator that we have, and because of these fancy little buttons that we have in our calculator, okay, you can actually put this in your calculator. Why is my calculator not working? Okay, you can actually put this in your calculator and the calculator will do it for you. Okay, so let me show you how that works. Okay, so just like before, we're going to hit the stat button and it pops up these options. Okay, we are going to edit and we're going to enter, let's just do Bryce for right now. Okay, if you remember back to when we first started, okay, I told you one of the little symbols meant standard deviation, that we would talk about it later. Okay, that's where this later comes in. Okay, I'm going to enter all of Bryce's test scores here. Whoops, he did not make a 1000, he made a 100. $99. Okay, and just like before, stat over to calculate, we're still in one variable. When all of our data pops up, this cute little, looks like a circle with a, kind of looks like Donald Trump hair, to be honest. Okay, this little circle with an X, this is your standard deviation right here. Okay, so again, let's write that down. In the calculator, you're looking for this little guy right here. Cute little circle with an X, and that is your standard deviation. So Bryce's standard deviation is 7.82. Look at his class average. His class average is a 90. Okay, so let's write that down. His average is a 90. And his standard deviation was 7.82, 7.83. Okay, let's go back and look at Brianna. Let's try to do Brianna. So back to stats. Okay, going to Brianna, let's go ahead and enter her data. So we have a 90, another 90. Okay, I'm pretty sure that they are going to end up with the exact same class average, hence the reason we are talking about standard deviation. Could be wrong, but I am pretty sure that's what the case is going to be. And how about that? Same exact average. Okay, same exact average. Average of a 90. Okay, so they both have an average of 90. Okay, let's look at Brianna's standard deviation. Okay, so we go down here, this guy right here, standard deviation, cute little circle with an X. 0.707, so 0.71. Okay, so less than 1. So if you look at these two, if we had to compare them, okay, or class average, they're both A students. But consistently, remember consistency is you want the lowest number possible. So consistently, you would go with Brianna. Okay, even though Bryce busted out a 100 at some point, Brianna was consistently in the A's high B area. Okay, Bryce every once in a while, but had a low B, 81 and 80. Just because of that 100 is why it brought his grade up to a 90. Okay, but consistency wise, Brianna is going to be your better choice. Okay, so all of the work that would be required to fill in all these boxes, calculate the standard deviation by hand, is quickly done in your calculator by doing the same thing we've been doing, entering the data and looking right here into this number. Okay, so flip it over to the next page. On the next page, we want you to do the exact same thing we've been doing, plugging data into your calculator and calculating the mean and the median. Okay, these three down here are a little different. Okay, standard deviation we just found. Okay, standard deviation is in your calculator. You have to have the standard deviation before you can calculate the variance. Okay, let me repeat that again. You have to have the standard deviation before you can calculate the variance. And all you have to do is square this answer. Okay, so if I were going to calculate Brianna's variance, her standard deviation is 0.71 is what we said. Okay, so I would take 0.71 squared, and there's Brianna's variance. Okay, so let's go back, clear out my list, and we have a 6, 22, 4, 15, 14, 8, and 8. Stack, calculate. Let's pull up all of this data. Okay, my average to my mean is 11. It gives me a median, so we got to scroll down. Remember when we made our box and whisker, it's down here. Our median is 8. Okay, you have to skip the variance for a second. Standard deviation is 5.83. Okay, your interquartile range is also something that is not exactly listed in here. However, you see these two Q values right here? You subtract them. That's all you have to do. It's just like regular range, which is biggest minus smallest. This one is just going to be the range of your Q's. Okay, so we do 15 minus 6. So our interquartile is actually 9. Okay, and again, to get our variance, we're going to exit out 5.83, take our standard deviation, square it, 33.99 pretty much is our variance. Okay, again, this was Q3 minus Q1. Again, all of these easily found in your calculator. Variance is the only one that you have to actually calculate yourself, and the interquartile, but Q3 and Q1 are given to you in the calculator. Okay, let's do number 2. enter your data. Remember, this is where most of the errors come in, is entering the data, just like mine did. I just entered an extra 2 in there for some reason. So make sure you're checking yourself as you go to make sure you're putting in the correct numbers. Calculate it. Okay, so you should get a mean of 19. If I scroll down to find my median, it is 20. My standard deviation, 6.46 when you round. My quartile range is the biggest Q, so Q3, which is 25, minus Q1, which is 12. 25 minus 12 leaves us with an interquartile range of 13. And again, to get the variance, we take our standard deviation, we square it, and our variance is 41.73. Let's go up to number 3. Y'all go ahead and start entering that data if you have not already started. I hope entering the data has become second nature at this point. Again, it's meant to help you make your life easier. Okay, a mean of 123.33. My standard deviation right here is 18.18. Scroll down, the next thing listed is my median, 127.5. My IQR, again, is your Q3 minus your Q1. Whoops. 135 minus 100. Again, this is your Q3 minus your Q1. And to get the variance, you exit out. 18.18, hit our cute little x squared, and enter. So 330.51. And the last one. Okay, on this one we got a mean of 15. Standard deviation was 2.35. Median 14.5. quartiles, 17.5 minus 13.5. Leaves us with an IQR of 4. And finally, 2.35 squared gives us our variance of 5.52. Okay, always two decimal places, of course, whenever possible. Always round to two decimal places. That's how you always see it. So make sure you're rounding to two decimals. Okay, at this point, you are going to get a worksheet where all you're going to do is practice what we just did. Okay, you're going to practice calculating the mean, median, standard deviation, variance. Okay,